Graphic design? Can you make a living at that?
Three, two, one, fun, 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 fun.
Welcome to Design Futures, a show about what happens after design school. I'm Chris St. Cyr, and my guest on this episode is Casey Ligon. It is so wonderful to see you. I'm so excited to talk to you. Casey is an associate creative director with the global agency VML, where she concepts, builds, and animates content for brands like Nintendo, Wendy's, Target, and Disney. According to her website, she is also a lettering artist, a photographer, food stylist, chalk muralist, and an Instagrammer. We'll talk about that because, yeah, you can call yourself an Instagrammer when you have as many followers as she does. And she is a 2012 graduate of Ringling College of Art and Design. So awesome to see you and get to talk to you. I'm super excited.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Should we start with your hair color? Because it's beautiful.
Pink. She stays pink.
It's pink. I've seen purple before too. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, she's all been shades of red and pink and anything involving red. All my tattoos on my arms are red. So I got to stay in that red zone.
That's your color palette.
Yeah. And then I wear a lot of black for being on set. So I'm always in black.
Oh, we gotta talk about that. Being on set. That sounds official. That sounds very Hollywood. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
All right. We'll let the audience sort of think about that. And we'll talk about the early stuff first.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, I wanted to talk to you for a while just because I've seen all the amazing work you do, and we'll take a look at some of those examples. And it's varied. It's pretty, like I just mentioned, food stylist and mural, chalk art and lettering. So there's a lot of things going on there. So were you like that as a creative kid? Did you just have like all kinds of creative interests, or what? How'd you get to this point? Like what started it all?
So in the 90s and early 2000s, there was a series of books called Klutz with a K, Klutz. And it was a book that taught you something, and it had all the materials that you needed to do it. And I think every birthday I got one of those. This is an immediate epiphany. Like, I've never actually thought about this, but I would get those books and then learn how to macrame little bracelets or learn how to face paint and learn these skills. And I really enjoyed them. But I just had this kind of mentality surrounding me as I grew up. I was near Eglin Air Force Base with a lot of other military kids. And I just thought, I can't do this for real. I've got to be a lawyer or a doctor or something. So I was always, crafty and hands-on, and I loved American Girl magazine and those Klutz books for craftiness, but set it aside and went to school for dentistry. So
what? Wait a minute.
Yeah,
that's news to
I
me.
veered all over the place, which is on brand.
Dentistry. I don't think I knew that about you. So you're living on military base. So did you travel around? Like, did you live in different places?
Not really. So my mom and dad both got out of the military when I was quite young, and I lived in Germany until I was 5, and I don't remember too much, but then we moved near Eglin Air Force Base. That's where I grew up in North Florida.
You were in Florida. So is that how you knew about Ringling? Just because it was a school in the state?
I got a hold of the catalog one year, and I distinctly remember flipping through it and being like, this is incredible. Seeing what student majors were there was really neat. And then just put a pin in it and set it aside in my brain and went to USF for pre-med bio, their track toward the medical fields. But I always had that in the back of my mind, like, man, that catalog was really neat. And it felt like just a magical place to be and go to school for art and design. But the first 3 years I was in Chem 1, Chem 2, Chem Labs, biology, all these courses for this track toward dentistry at USF. And by my junior year, I was real burnt out, and I was making a C in Chem Lab. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I took a drawing course as an elective. And every day I was coming to class with my assignment saying, here you go. I did my drawing. It was easy. It was fun. And then it kind of clicked in my brain, like, chemistry is really difficult. Drawing's easier. It was fun to do the homework in drawing. And so after my dad passed away, it was just like this catalyst that said, I need to do what I enjoy and try to chase that. So after that junior year of doing some art courses, art history, drawing, painting, and whatnot, I transferred to Ringling. So I
Okay.
kind of had to restart as a freshman at Ringling at that point.
And we met, I think it was probably like a second year sophomore level class or something that you're in class with me. One of my memories of interacting with students, for good or bad, is like your story, because I do remember trying to recruit you to
Yeah.
come over to graphic design, because that, I don't know, were you the first group that in the advertising program?
Yeah, I was in the inaugural class, and
Okay.
you were the second teacher to try to recruit me to an entirely different program. So
Oh,
don't feel special. So
oh my goodness.
back at USF, I took a pottery class, and this teacher at the end of class one day was like, "Come with me," and I was like, "Okay, what are you going to show me?" And he brought me to like the senior studios where they had different sculptors doing their thing, and he was like, "You need to transfer into the sculpture program." And I was like, "Nah, I'm going to go to Ringling."
I'm gonna go to Ringling instead.
So
See? Working in all those crafty Klutz books and as a kid, it paid off. Like it was still there.
but that post-it note that you left me that was like something like, can you come see me at this time or something like, or see me after class, I kept that for years. And I
Oh,
eventually did lose it during a move or something, but I kept that for years because me personally, I'm my biggest critic and I hate everything I've ever made. I look at anything that I've just created and all I see are things that I can fix. So I
yeah.
tend to keep those little trinkets that tell me that somebody else believes in me because that belief doesn't come from inside. Like I said, I was raised in this environment that said you can't be an artist.
Mm,
So here I am employed as one and it's just not good enough. So I
yeah.
kept that little note. It was so
Oh,
meaningful to me that you wanted me to transfer, even though I had it locked in my brain that I knew I wanted to go into advertising. I was on that track and I felt comfy there.
yeah.
But that was really special to me that you
Oh,
made that outreach. And the advertising track allowed you to leave with a writing portfolio or a design
mm,
portfolio. I couldn't choose, so I left with both. I also think that the advertising program, even though it doesn't exist, I did enjoy it while it was there. Once a week or so, we would have keynote presentations to give. So it
right.
turned me into a person that could actually speak and develop thoughts before they came out of my brain in front of other people. And I am the most hyper introverted person. Put me in a cave, lock me away. I don't want to see humans ever again, but
Mm,
I have to switch it on anytime that I want to connect with people, anytime that I
right.
want to talk to students about my path, anytime that I
Mm,
want to speak to clients and sell an idea that they might
right.
not be on board with. I want them to give me that budget and give me those hours. So I
Right.
better be able to talk them through this idea and convince them that it's the right way to go.
One of the things that I asked students, former students, are there things that you feel should be addressed in education these days that maybe it wasn't addressed when you were a student?
I'm pretty sure everybody must say something along the same lines about it just feels like there can always be more to say and more to teach and more to share in terms of networking and really getting yourself ready for the realities of how hard it is to be
Mhm.
employed as a creative,
Yeah.
even as somebody who feels like I've finally kind of made it. Like I've got this established career. I feel a bit safer than I may have 5 or 10 years ago. Um, it just seems like it's a hard road. Even when
Yeah.
you've got it going on,
Right.
it's still really difficult. And I just don't think anybody can ever drill that enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So, one of the things that you sent me a note. I need you to explain this note that you sent me because it sounds fascinating and there's got to be a great story or lesson for somebody listening. Because so this is what you sent me. I got offered my first job at an ad agency because I had the word Microsoft from a student project in my LinkedIn profile. I turned down their offer,
Yeah.
printed out my Instagram feed, and asked them to invent a job for me, which they did. What is that? Okay, that never happens to anybody, but what is that about? Like,
Hearing it, it sounds so egotistical, and
it sounds so awesome.
I cannot state enough how much I hate myself, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm riding on some high horse saying how wonderful my experience was. No, it was difficult. It was uphill. Whatever. The fact is, I was at Hallmark. I was a combination writer designer. I was doing a lot of web design and fonts under the table, which I wasn't allowed to do because I wasn't in the font department. And I was writing. So I was doing all these different roles, but I was thinking about leaving. So I had been posting to Instagram the content that I wanted to create in this future career for myself. And one day out of the blue, somebody from an ad agency here in Kansas City reached out to me on LinkedIn. And he said just that. He said, I'm from an innovation group at this ad agency. We're a special department that deals with tech and innovation, and we want to talk to you about this role. And I immediately had no interest in the role, but it came to light that he found me on LinkedIn because of the word Microsoft in my profile, which was true. I wrote in one of my business courses about this project where Microsoft came in and we had to do a project for them and they evaluated it and chose a winner, whatever. So I fleshed out that LinkedIn profile because I knew that those buzzwords were going to reach into the ether and draw somebody to me. So it did its job. I went into their office, and literally in my back pocket, I had printed out on 8.5 by 11 paper, folded in half, my Instagram feed. So I wanted to have an open dialogue with them because I'd never stepped foot in this ad agency, but I knew it was one of the bigger dogs of the city. I knew I wanted to chat with them about what they had going on and then bring out what I really wanted to do for them. So I talked to them about the role. I immediately didn't love it. And then the two men that were in the office with me, one of them was the leader of the tech and innovation group, and one of them was the head of like the social media team. And I pulled out the portfolio, this little pocket portfolio of literally my Instagram feed. I still have it at my desk at work just to show people, those little origins. And it was just post after post after post, these different images of like things made out of food. Like I was sick one day and I didn't want to go into work. So I spelled out UGH out of avocado on my toast. And I posted it to Instagram, and I had calligraphy and lettering samples from Hallmark, and they were all very crafty, lovely things. And I said, this is what I really want to do. And in that session, we started talking about Blue Bunny, one of their clients that wanted social content that could lean this way, that could be crafted and lettered, made out of ice cream, made out of sprinkles, whatever. And it just clicked. Mm-hmm. And so they hired me as the visual creative. They gave me a writing partner, and they put together a producer. We were a little 3-person team. And like 2 weeks later, I was working for them on this social team as a junior art director or something along those lines. But it was just one of those things that if I had this thing that I was doing in the evenings and on the weekends that was pouring out of me, this visual content that was lettering focused and tactile and made out of objects and food. And because it was pouring out of me and because I kept putting it in front of people, one of those times it stuck.
That's amazing. That's not egotistical at all. That's just like, this is what I want to do. Some of it's like right place, right time, but also just like your initiative to really like know what you want, and then like having that opportunity and talking to somebody, when that opportunity arises.
When I was leaving Hallmark, I knew I had to transition from this writing and web design portfolio that I had sitting with me after a year or two at Hallmark. How was I going to then go and do something completely different? So I posted every day to Instagram because I thought I cannot make a portfolio overnight, but I can post one small thing every day. At the end of a month, I'll have 30 small things. At the end of a year, I'll have 365 small things. And that's no longer a small thing. That's a portfolio. And it literally was that, because those 50 pieces that I crammed into that little portfolio is what got me that job. So taking those little bites really added up into a portfolio.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like you're mentioning all those things. So let's talk about I'm going to show some of your work because it is very different than other students I've talked to. There's been definitely one other person I talked to, not from Ringling, from another school I taught at, and she she works out in Las Vegas and does a lot of this like hand building of like larger scale, like super large things for conventions and
Oh, cool.
shows and things. So yeah, a little different scale, but same kind of idea. Okay, so let's
Food.
start with this one because
Yeah.
it's sort of along the lines of the story you're just talking about, like just doing something and then some job happened. So what's the story behind Mario made out of cheese and crackers, it looks like? And
Yeah, it's like a charcuterie board, which the
yeah.
internet will tear you up for because the only meat on this is like the side of his hat. So I had played Bowser's Fury, which is like a Super Mario game on Switch. And it was such a delightful game. And I was hungry for some additional food styling content on my feed. So I took something that I was interested in, which is Mario and this game, Bowser's Fury, and I combined it with this sort of hole in my portfolio. And this is what I always talk about when I say what pours out of you is what you should follow. And so this is something I very much wanted to do with no budget, nobody telling me to do it. I had two friends of mine, a director, Michael Martin, and my dear friend, Corey Vetter, who's a DP, help me with this. So they set up camera, they set up lights. I helped creative direct, what kind of lighting, because we had clients at the time that weren't allowing shadows and harsh lighting. So I was like, play with it, play with that cool lighting that you want to test out while I played with food and all these ingredients. I think I spent $200 on all of the red bell peppers and pepperoni and cheese and chocolate and M&Ms and all these things. This piece, posting it on my feed, not only had it go like viral on Reddit, like I posted it on a few different subreddits, but it as a piece has led to multiple clients because this image is so simple and striking and effective and clean. So it really helps some clients who are timid in that kind of expressive, creative space to do something, quote unquote, daring or crazy and shocking, like
Yeah.
create a charcuterie board out of Mario's face.
Yeah.
If you want to bring up the Disney one, the Disney
Where,
piece
which
came
one's that?
after, that's the Food and Wine Festival.
Yeah.
That came after the Mario piece. That was a real flat wooden surface on the ground of that same studio as the Mario piece that was maybe 10 feet tall, 12 feet wide. I crafted all the food on that surface. I stained wood blue over the course of a day. I crafted all the food over the course of many days and then shot that food art on the floor of this studio and then sent it over to Disney and they printed it large scale on this mural to be positioned on this wall in downtown Disney in California. They also had me photograph it super high res so that it could be printed very high resolution so that when people were walking up to it, they could see all the details. It was quite an endeavor.
So are you an amazing chef as well?
I basically 10 years ago signed up for a Blue Apron membership where they give you like the meal kits and
Yeah.
I started learning how to cook. And so now I very slowly but surely built up all those experiences that I didn't have because I didn't go to a culinary school or anything like
Right.
that. So now I do know how to slice fruits properly and how to bake and how to cook and how to handle all these various foods by doing it. So bit by bit, I pick up those skills with every job that I do.
So, I mean, this is a little bit of the tangent, but it's always the curious question, knowing your way around the kitchen and ingredients. So do you know like how you can manipulate a recipe so like it's not edible, but it's gonna like last under all the lighting that has to happen? Like do you like make
Yeah,
food like that so it's gonna like last for days?
yeah, I personally have just picked up tricks along every job I've ever done. So literally 2 days ago, I do a little bit of food styling for Wendy's for their social channels. Nothing for the big media buys like TV commercials or anything, but I do food styling for Wendy's. And as an example, I walked into work on Wednesday morning. My producer handed me a giant RC truck and he said, first of all, paint this red and brand it for Wendy's. And then you're going to need to build a chicken sandwich that stays on it while we drive it around. So I spent the first half of my day taping the edges of this truck so that I could paint it red and then peel off all the silver parts and then branding at Wendy's. And then after lunch, I sat down and I food styled a chicken sandwich that had been given to me by the restaurant in parts and pieces so I could pick the best piece of chicken and the best bun and the best lettuce. And I hot glued onions into place. And then I put about 50 toothpicks into this thing so that none of the layers would come apart and all the pickles were facing the right way. And just having built a lot of burgers, I've picked up, what kind of glue works best with oil and what kind of toothpick is the best for holding the bun in the right place and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think many people walk into work and get that request.
Yeah, it's a freaking dream.
It sounds super fun. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is another Wendy. So this is the logo, or you called it something. What'd you call it? Cameo?
Yeah, we call it the cameo. It's a
Okay.
specific lockup that involves Wendy's face in a circle. So you have different logo marks for a brand. And for Wendy's, they have the W, they have the Wendy's word, they have the lockup with Wendy's face and the word below it. They have just the face alone. And so the face, when it's alone, we call it the cameo.
Okay. So yeah, here's the miniature ones. These are just
Okay, so I'll give you a short story. Years ago, so I started at VML 5 years ago, and I was doing work at my little desk. Everybody had their little one desk assignment, and I thought people don't know what else I can do, and maybe they're not following me on Instagram. So I started putting pieces of work and art and 2D and 3D stuff at my desk, like a little gallery display. And slowly but surely, all these different client teams started picking up on the fact that I can do food art, I can do lettering, I can do calligraphy, I can do miniatures. So the Wendy's team specifically, they have great budgets, they have great ideas, and they have great art directors and copywriters that want to do cool stuff. So they will come to me and be like, hey, we saw you do miniatures. Can you make a miniature Wendy's for us? And that's how this job was born.
and the not Wendy's, but Wednesday
There you go.
is
This
for
was for a collaboration between
oh,
Netflix and Wendy's.
oh,
So
okay.
it was very complicated to try to say Wednesday, Wendy's, Wednesdays, which was the collab name. It was, yeah, it's a lot.
Oh,
But sometimes when VML being the headquarters of this global company here in Kansas City, they'll have client visits with very important people and they'll do tons of vinyl wraps and window displays and all kinds of cool stuff to impress the clients. One of the things they started doing was leveraging me for whiteboard murals. So this is a glass whiteboard. It has a little bit of that the glass is a few millimeters off the wall. So when you get up close, it's a little bit of a illusion with your eyes,
yeah.
but it's a whiteboard mural. So literally whiteboard markers, black, white, purple, not white, sorry, black, purple, gray, all that, created all of these shapes and colors. And the black of her umbrella is all one marker. If I needed to create dark blacks, I move the marker very slowly with very short strokes so that there's
Right.
no white gaps. If I need gray, I move the marker really fast. And so you get these streaks of gray. And the same goes for her pinstripes down her suit. There's no such thing as a white whiteboard marker. There's just the
Right.
white of the wall. So if I needed to create white, I would create some black around it and then erase to form the white and get all those different gradients of color. So
So part of the technique though with a whiteboard marker is the speed of it. Like
mhm.
slow is darker or full saturation, and
Yep.
fast is like the tint or lighter version of it.
Yeah, because it's alcohol ink. So the slower you go, the more alcohol can build up and physically be on the board. And then the faster you go, you're going to get a real thin coating of alcohol ink.
That is fascinating. Wow, I learned something about whiteboard marker technique. I'll remember that next time I'm writing in class. Huh, that's fascinating. What's this one? This one looks messy.
That was a piece for Publix supermarkets. I
Oh,
think one of the reasons that a lot of clients gravitate toward this art made out of food is that they can show the ingredients and show like,
right.
oh, we're dealing with really natural ingredients or we're making it from scratch. So this piece was specifically, it was actually a set of two pieces made for Publix to promote some recipes. So in the end, the recipe crafted this sort of Swiss roll cake that you see in the very center there that's being carried by the granddaughter.
Yeah.
And all of the powders and ingredients on set are the ingredients of the recipe. So they came to me with this concept and they said, hey, we want food art for this recipe for a Swiss roll cake. And I said, what if we can make the art out of the ingredients? So you have the whipped cream in the grandmother's hair, you have the blueberries of her dress, which were, there were fruits in the cake. We got all kinds of like cocoa powder. And then what I had them do was source raspberry powder and different like sugar, like powdered sugar and regular sugar to create all those pinks and whites that you see around the frame so that everything in frame was from the recipe. I wasn't using any fake materials or unnecessary ingredients. Everything in frame could be made into this Swiss roll cake.
So this one's a little different than some of the other ones. Like, it's not, it's more of a illustration, I would say, right? Like certainly a kind of a scene with these two figures and a background, sort of like some nature elements. So with something like this, did you do lots of rounds of sketching and
Yeah.
and how detailed did that process get before? Because this takes a lot of time. So what was the preparation to get to something like this?
So they had me do the illustrations. Sometimes I'm working off of like a logo or an image that's already established, but the team kicked me off of the project and they had me do a round of sketches in black and white. And then once that was approved and kicked down the road, I got to create a very colorful drawing.
Is this medicine?
No, that's sour candy. You can have that. That's my son. All right. You
Hi.
shut that door. Thank you, buddy. Pause for a Mike and Ike break.
Oh,
Yes, you can eat it.
that sounds like the best
So
kind
anyway,
of break.
I need a Mike and Ike break too. So we had a full color sketch. And once I did the full color sketch, I was able to say, hey, her hair is going to be made out of whipped cream. Her dress is going to be made out of blueberries. And that, once that was approved, got to be handed to a team of food stylists who could source all those things for me. And then on the actual day of shooting, it was 2 days of shooting for 2 illustrations. They had all of my ingredients lined up on a table in these beautiful, perfect silver aluminum bowls. And so I had my palette laid out in front of me. And then I just took a little scrap of paper, folded into a cone, filled it up with cocoa powder, held it over like those monks that do sand art, and tapped the cone. Sometimes I would create gradients just by sprinkling it by hand, or I would fill things in like the blueberries one at a time. I'm not playing hard and fast. I'm really playing a long game where patience and meditation are really the way to create these pieces. It takes 8 hours to craft something this big.
Well, here's your Instagram page. I just want to bring,
It's a hot mess. It's all
there's
so
like,
all over the place.
what's going on here? What is this?
This post specifically was a recap like of my year. And I was like, hey, here's some things that went on at VML. Like I said, I do some social food styling for Wendy's. And one day we were in a physical Wendy's location and we had to be at a Wendy's so that we could be given all this food. So we had to shoot some burgers, we had to shoot some drinks, we had to shoot a taco salad, we had to shoot all this stuff. And I'm not I'm a professional food styler in that I'm paid to do it, but I'm not some, super well-trained food stylist. But still, for a few hours, I sat there making burgers and nuggets and putting them into the containers the right way and layering the burger ingredients the right way so that for this slew of TikToks that they were filming, each of the burgers had the ingredients that they were supposed to have. They weren't totally smushed down and looking terrible. They were looking great. But this is the wealth of, food that I made by the end of the shoot. And we were like, we got to get this on a table and just take a picture because it's so silly how much we did.
That is a lot of food.
Yeah.
Somewhere in here, there's like some that are time-lapsed or animated.
Well, and that's exactly how I got into
here.
stop motion, was just by photographing my food lettering. I didn't go to school for animation. I didn't go to school for stop motion by any means. And yet I was creating these pieces of food art on a tabletop. And when you're done, you have to take a photo of it from above. So sometimes I would rig a camera above me. And I remember the very first time, I think it was for a Reese's Take 5 piece that I was crafting. I was like, well, what if I just take my arms out of the frame each time I photograph along the way? And I'm basically creating a time lapse.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into stop motion, was just by capturing what I was making. And slowly making that transition from time lapsing to actually animating.
That is amazing work. I just like I mentioned before, when I started doing this, I was like, I need to talk to Casey at some point because I need to hear all about this. One of the things that I wanted to ask, I sort of asked like a little bit with one of those, but what what is the kind of production like for
Mm.
this kind of thing? Like, I mean, you talked earlier about like, oh, you got to wear black because you're on set, like like it sounds like, yeah, like movie or TV production kind of work. So who are all the people? What are the roles? What is your role? What happens throughout like a project where you need to do like a, say, the stop motion kind of project?
So for a few years there, I was freelancing and I was shooting a lot of this on my iPhone or on my little muralist camera with one Amazon umbrella light and a prayer. And I was doing it for a few years. I was a little content creator doing it out of my kitchen. And then I called up a friend who worked at VML and I said, "Can you connect me to somebody at VML? I'd love to somehow make the work that I'm doing a full-time situation for an ad agency big enough to funnel those clients to me." So I got hooked up with various people at VML until I talked to the right person. And who I talked to is my current boss, Scott Stone. He's the director of the creative production studio at VML. So VML is a huge ad agency that has offices globally, but they have an internal production studio. So we function like any other photo or video production studio would independently, except we just happen to be in-house. So we have client teams where a creative director, art director, whatever, will be tied to one or two specific clients, but our production team gets to serve all those clients. And I got thrown onto that team, did some photography work and whatnot. And then as word got around to the different skills that I brought to the table and what I was eager to do more of, I got assigned to different roles and different jobs in that way. Primarily, our group is comprised of motion designers and video editors. They edit case study videos. They do a ton of motion graphics and video exports for all these clients. They might get assets for a TV commercial and need to put some type treatments on it, things like that. Everything on the computer in After Effects and all these other programs that they use. There's, I think like 70 or 100 of us at this point. But if things need to be practical, if they need to be in camera and real, if they need to be made in stop motion, or if something needs to be crafted by an art department, that's me. So we have the computer side of things and then the practical side of things. And it's like 100 guys and then me and some photographers hanging out in a studio. So we have a bunch of freelance directors that we use. We have a DP on staff that does
What's
a
a
lot
DP?
of a director of photography or just a director of video. And he's salaried and does work day to day, but we bring on crews as needed. So if we have a big shoot for a client, we have a little studio there. It's not enormous, but it's larger than any other ad agency in Kansas City has for sure. And we will rent lighting equipment. We'll have a truck pull up and unload all the equipment we need, all the camera equipment. And we'll have a full-on shoot with a table full of food styling. We'll have around the corner, we'll take over a huge conference room for our props and wardrobe stylists, and our talent will be in there wrangling themselves. And then we'll have our grips and our lighting crew and everybody just building what we need to in this studio. We have a big white cyc where we shoot everything, all the camera equipment we need. And we have a loft upstairs where clients can sit and view the work on a live feed while we're shooting downstairs and communicate with us in that way. So it's such a nice setup when we need to shoot and have a crew right there in the building inside the ad agency. It's a really great setup.
Wow, that sounds great. I mean, you have a substantial freelance work. So that's that's a whole other kind of thing to deal with in terms of like business, right? So what is that side of your creative life like?
So I worked at an ad agency for a bit years and years and years ago, and I quit and I went freelance. I was freelance for 5 whole years. And immediately I started an LLC at the advice of an accountant and did all that I needed to do to maintain that status and started funneling everything into that. But I would just work with producers at ad agencies. So producers from all over the United States would reach out and say, hey, we have a job. We need some art made out of food. We need XYZ. And they were my middleman as a freelancer. I would just work through the producer. I currently really work a lot like that, but I've also worked with a rep and had her go and get work for me. Disney, for that Disney job, one of the producers on that job, on that social team, because this was for a social post and for that mural, they reached out to me via email. And then I immediately forwarded them to my rep, and she handled all the contracts. She got her cut of the payment by doing all of that contract work. I never signed a document. I never saw a piece of paper. God bless her. She is a saint. And so if I have
worth every penny.
Yeah. So if I have a bigger client like that, I'll have a rep help wrangle that because I don't know what I'm doing on that front.
Yeah, that's business stuff. That's like
that's hard.
That's a whole other profession.
I want to do the fun stuff.
There's a lot of amazing work, so it must take up all your time. But what are you relaxing? What do you do to like chill out and not think about work and take your mental breaks, take care of yourself? Are there other things you do? You're in Kansas City? Is that right?
Yes, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. I really like it for the balance of being a city that's medium large, but not scary large. I'm an introvert, so I don't really go out too much. I have a 7-year-old son and a 12-year-old stepdaughter that I love very much. And so having that family aspect, it really keeps me connected to what's that new trope on like Instagram and TikTok where it's like, oh yeah, this is what it was all about. It's not about the work and the flashiness. It's all about the human beings that you're interacting with. It's all about the coffee that you made this morning. It's all about, the way that my son smiled at me when I clapped because he made a basketball in the hoop. Like I'm soaking up that stuff in the evenings. But I think it's just a matter of balancing what burns me out and what doesn't. Because now I'm in this wonderful position where after years and years of working toward this, people are coming to me based on my portfolio.
Yeah, that's something else you sent me. You said, my job now gives me the most freedom of any job I've ever had, for which I plan on never leaving. That's an amazing statement. That says something about you, the work, the employer.
Yeah, it's
life is good.
It's all those things. It's the work has to be good, the management has to be good, the company culture has to be good. My boss is really wonderful in looking at what I do well and selling that stuff to the clients and the client teams, but also just letting me work. Like if I'm creating good work for him, if I'm doing my job and making money for the company, let her go, man. Let her. I think it's a really nice relationship that I'm cherishing right now.
That's great. All right, it's time to move on to the pop quiz and wrap up.
Oh my gosh, you really do feel like a teacher now.
Yep. This is it's an easy pop quiz. Everybody passes really. Okay. What is your work beverage of choice?
Oh, Diet Coke. I just downed an entire large Diet Coke. I have a McDonald's like a block away from my house on the way to work, so like every day, Diet Coke, and then like an oat milk latte at 2.
And then after work?
Water, lots of water. I don't drink any other soda or anything, so lots of water.
Favorite snack food? You make a lot of stuff with snack food. What's your favorite to eat?
Those really bad for you, like Welch's snacks, the little like Welch's fruit snacks that are in the little blue packet. I think I have a packet of those a day.
Favorite food to create an image with?
Powders. So like anything fine, you can craft anything out of. On the other end of the spectrum, pretzel salt and any kind of salt is the worst because its structure is chiseled and beveled, so it flies around and pings in the wrong direction that you don't want it to go. Like you try to nudge it a millimeter and it moves a mile.
Peanut or plain M&Ms?
Peanut for the substance. Sometimes I'll be working and I'm like 8 hours have passed and I haven't eaten, but I ate some peanut M&Ms and that means that I have protein.
That counts as protein. Sure. Yeah. All right. Sketchbook, blank or gridded?
Oh God. Oh, like gridded 1,000%, because like lettering, you can get like those lines and angles where you need them. I like the little grid dots specifically.
All right. Type or image?
I mean, I always want to do more calligraphy and lettering. I always want to craft more with lettering, but a lot of the work that I do is more image based. I'll say type, but specifically like calligraphy and hand lettering, which
Okay.
isn't really type.
There's a lot of time spent putting all your work together in the studio. Do you listen to music when you're working?
Yeah, a ton of like movie soundtracks, or like Thomas Newman is one of my favorite composers, like really mellow, sad music, or like
Mellow
really
sad.
epic movie soundtracks like The Prince of Egypt and Hunchback of Notre Dame. Like all of those movie soundtracks
Mm.
keep my brain calmer and more focused.
Favorite non-food medium to work with?
What? Oh God.
No
Chalk?
food.
Yeah, chalk, chalk,
Chalk?
chalk. Because
Yeah.
like when I started doing advertising work in Kansas City, I painted a chalk wall in my apartment. And I was like, I got to get better at lettering, so I'll just practice on this chalk wall. I'll practice lettering. And it was like that led to like so much work, so many jobs just doing chalk art.
Oh. Advertising or graphic design?
Advertising, come on.
Damn, even after all these years, you still
I
pick
know.
advertising.
I don't know what graphic design is. Come on. I just
All
play with
right.
food.
Just play with food. All right. Last question in the quiz is if you weren't a designer, food stylist, all the things you do, what would you be?
Oh God.
Dentist? Go back to dental
Never.
school?
Never. I barely floss. I try real hard. Um, I don't know. I think I like giving and caring and seeing people happy. I think I would just be like a homemaker and like want to raise my kids. I would love to just see people improve and see people get better at things. So like something in the realm of like teaching maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't have the patience. I don't know how any teacher has the patience for like the kids that don't give a crap. Like, oh, I'm just taking this credit for checking the box. I can't
Just
deal with
take,
that. Never mind. I don't want to be a teacher.
stay at home and make some amazing food, right? And
Yeah,
then
just
and then
make.
play with the food.
Oh my God, just make puppy chow and bake treats all day.
That sounds good. Yeah, that works. All right, final thoughts for all those aspiring designers, all those students in college who like didn't know
Yeah.
what they were gonna do, and then before they know it, they're making logos out of crackers and cheese. Like, what are your final thoughts, inspirational thoughts for those students?
I've probably harped on this enough today, and I talked to some students earlier today, and this was the same exact thing that I told them, which is that you have to follow what comes out of you naturally. You cannot chase what's trending. Aside from like partaking in a trend and doing your version of things, you have to follow what comes out of you naturally. If it feels forced, like writing felt forced for me, I had to slowly step away from that because it was a struggle every time. But if something is flowing out of you naturally, if you have a 9 to 5 job and at 5 p.m. you come home and you're just glued to your sketchbook or whatever that medium is, follow that and really harp on those things because that's going to lead to the job that you want to do. Doing hand lettering from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. every day for a year led to a full portfolio that got me where I am now. And I still, to this day, on my off days, if I feel creative and I want to craft something, I craft what I want to craft, not what I think a client is going to enjoy, because those are my hours. That's my time. And if I can get enough attention on that, somebody will pay me to do it later.
That's excellent advice. You're not the first person to say that, but I would say that you are an amazing example of that sentiment.
Right.
You know, like I think your story is just that story. And it's so amazing to hear. And I'm glad we got a chance to talk after all these years.
Thank you. Well, and like I said earlier, it looks linear and it looks easy looking back on it to see that path, but it felt like a wild ride the entire time. And I just tried everything I could until it landed where I am now. But it was chaotic until this point.
Well, it's a great story. Thanks so much for chatting with me. It was amazing to catch up.
Thank you for having me.
All right, bye.
Bye.
I know you've been crying, dog.
So what did we learn from Casey? Do something you love, put it out there, and it might lead to your dream job. And whiteboard markers. Go slow for a darker tone and fast for a lighter tint of a color. Who knew? Thanks to Casey Ligon of VML. If you have any comments or questions for me or any of my guests, please leave them in the comments and subscribe so you can catch the next episode of Design Futures. Until next time, go learn something. Your future depends on it. Thanks for listening. See ya.